Hey, this is Don Warren with openhousesUSA.net, and today we've got the spotlight on Joe Kohler. Uh, Joe is someone I came across on Facebook, and we've been friends for a little bit. But he's up in Idaho. But I saw him come across, and he does a lot with open houses, and he likes to have a lot of open houses. And we're going to get more into that. But uh, Joe, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what brokerage you work with, what area you should serve, and we'll get into some other things as well.
Sure. Well, first, I appreciate you having me on your podcast and videos. It's always nice to always collaborate with others. I do appreciate that. But as you mentioned, my name is Joe Kohler. I'm with HomeSmart Premier Realty. I cover southeastern Idaho, which those of you that are familiar with Idaho is basically Pocatello, Grace, all the way up to Island Park where the cabins are. And it's one of the most popular places that people have been moving from ever since COVID, and everyone have loved it. And there's national parks close to everything. And probably our best feature that everyone always talks about is very little traffic. You can kind of see outside that we got some snow. So in the winter months, people always ask me what my hobbies are. And, in the summer, I always like to hike and spend time with family. And in the winter, I like to complain about how cold it is. And so those are kind of some of my hobbies. But open houses are kind of a fun passion that have moved my business along. So I'm grateful to have a chance to chat about it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now you mentioned you do quite a few open houses a year. How many open houses do you generally try to do?
I try to do about 75. This year, my goal is 75 open houses, um, which it's a big goal, but the key is to be consistent. You'll see a lot of agents try to do like a blitz, and I've done those where they do 50 open houses in 30 days or 100
Wow.
open houses in 100 days. And I feel that that's a great thing too, because I'm always about celebrating the activity of real estate. But for me and my business and all the other levers that I pull to generate business, I feel that 75 open houses in a year is a very consistent, lofty goal.
That's great. Now, uh, I know some areas of the country they say, well, open houses aren't really a thing around here, but how is it? How is it? How do the sellers? Uh, how are they receptive to it in your area? Also, potential buyers or just people visiting. What do you find in your market as far as both the seller and buyer side?
That's a great question. I think there's obviously two sides to that coin, the buyers and the sellers. Sellers, at the end of the day, they want to have a reason to be paying you what you're making, right? They want to have a reason to justify the commission that you're charging. And hosting an open house is something that you can tangibly show them, hey, I'm actively trying to get your home sold. I'm actively working for you. And so when educated and positioned properly, sellers love an open house. They always have really high expectations of their open house because they love their house, and obviously everybody else will too. And so my advice there is, if when you're talking to sellers or you're reaching out to other agents about hosting open houses at their listings, just make sure that that expectation is, hey, in reality, we might just get a handful of people, we might get nobody, but at the end of the day, you don't catch any fish without putting your hook in the water, and this is us putting our hook in the water to help sell your home. So sellers really like it, especially in this day and age where you really need to build the value for your compensation. Open houses are a great tool to add to your toolbox. As far as buyers go and potential buyers coming to open houses, the key is in the delivery. And so if you're very, at first, most of them find it online at various tools, including this, I'm sure, but most buyers will find it online. And in this day and age, talking to a stranger is not everyone's favorite thing. So you got to become everybody's best friend really fast. So I have lots of little tips to make it a very easy transition to go from just a contact into an appointment from an open house. And so buyers are often receptive if you do it right. So the words that you use, the way you position yourself, all play a role in having a successful open house for a buyer. Because half the time they just want to look at the house and they could care less about you unless you do it right.
That's great. Now, how you you mentioned something that was very interesting to me as far as sellers like to see you providing value, and that hit in my mind that yes, that's something very visible. Whereas you could be out behind a computer, be doing other things that's just marketing your butt off to, of the home. But open houses, it's like that's visible. And still there's other ways you were mentioning about sometimes, hey, there's no visitors. Do you do like social media content from the open house, where maybe take a little video or something else that you can post online?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mentioned earlier that you got to celebrate the activity of real estate. You got to be always doing something. And if you spend 2, 3, 4 hours at an open house and no one comes, that can feel like a huge waste of time. Which is why there's a lot of negative feedback from my agents who don't use their time wisely at an open house. And so there's a whole process to an open house. And I learned in a professional life before I was even a real estate agent that if you can't describe what you do in the form of a process, you don't know what you're doing. And so when you're hosting an open house, you need to make sure that you have a plan for that time. So even if your plan is to, do your follow up during that time if no one comes, that's one thing. But then to maximize for your sellers, especially, is I like to do a hey, in case you missed our open house, this is what you missed, and then you do a quick little walkthrough video. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hold on.
That's
You do a quick little walkthrough video of you do a quick little you do a quick little walkthrough video of the home highlighting a couple features, but then at the end of the day, especially if you can position that post where they have to still enter their information to see the open house, then you still capture that potential contact. And so that's one thing you can do. A lot of agents will door knock in preparation for an open house to get people there. I think that's a great tool. But at the end of the day, I think the first step is have a process of what you want to do to be working your whole open house, even if nobody comes. So if you as an agent have a plan, that's great. And then the next step is enhance that listing by making that post open house video. I share it in my story, all the things.
now on. Uh, do you have, when you're having the different open houses and doing the 75, and one thing that you also mentioned was that you also see about hosting for other agents, and that, we try to get the word out about that that's great, because not all listing agents want to do open houses, or they may be too busy to do open houses. So it's always great to get out there. But I'm sure with all the open houses that you do, that you see a variety of properties that you do open houses for, from entry level or investment, or to might be to high end as well. Do you tailor your marketing strategies for the open houses, or do you find that some properties just aren't good to do open houses for?
That's a great question. And honestly, the property I've found is the biggest factor of having a successful open house. And so a lot of agents still go for like the really beautiful listings in the market, the $1 million listings, the brand new construction, or those really just gorgeous listings. And of course, I'll do those. I get asked to do open houses at those, and I will, and they're great. And if you get a good buyer, you hold on to it because those aren't coming around every day. But personally, as far as the result of finding buyers and just increasing my reach and getting in front of the most amount of people, I really like to have those entry level properties. I like to find one that's relatively new on the market or has just had a recent price reduction, so they have some motivation. But those entry level properties are going to be an entry level buyer, which traditionally they've never worked with an agent before, so you're the first one to audition. And statistics say that they normally work with the first agent that they meet with, and so you got to make it you. And if you're hitting those $1 million listings, they normally have an agent. They normally have friends that are agents, and you're overcoming that, which isn't hard to overcome, of course. But if you can avoid any obstacles before they're even obstacles, why not? And so I normally try to price my selection of open houses where I know I'm going to get a bigger return, which is normally at the entry level. Now, that's not going to create the most glamorous Facebook reel posts or anything like that, but I have a social media strategy for that to shine there. Whereas my open house strategy is to find buyers, and the best way to find them is this way.
And those starting out in the home market, hey, they advance in their careers, and they buy bigger properties and such. So there's, it could be a long term
Yeah.
relationship there. One thing that you mentioned is because some agents don't like doing this, as you mentioned that though, that you will look for something that may have a recent price reduction for that. Is there a particular strategy that you use with that? And do evidently you're finding those successful enough to keep doing that?
Yep. I think with a price reduction open house, it's really nice because, as we know, when we reduce a price on a property, it hits everybody's Zillow inbox. People that were on the fence about it might be a little bit more likely to look at it. And if they're a little more likely to look at it, they'll be even more likely when they can go to an open house without bothering their agent. So it's about that middle ground of the people that are kind of interested and just need a little bit of help. So anything
That's,
where I can see that if we see a house that's been on the market for 4 months and 5 months and no price reduction, one, probably those sellers aren't super motivated or they just don't have the room. And the people that have wanted to see that home at that price and that condition have already looked at it after 4 months. And so now we have a new price and that opens up to potentially new buyers that might be interested in it.
exactly. There's a couple more things here that I want to hit on there. One is, how important is it that you see as follow up, and how, what's your follow up strategy to stay in contact with anybody that's been through or has reached out to you about the open house?
Perfect. I want to answer that question directly, but I think there's a missing piece of that puzzle for the follow up first that I think a lot of agents miss. Is it okay if I kind of give like a couple tips on what
Oh,
makes my follow
absolutely.
up?
That's what we're
So,
here for, is to help with that. So anything you can help with.
okay, well, the one secret that I found, or one thing that I feel I do different than anyone else in my market, is when I have a guest at an open house, I don't give them a piece of paper with the info on the house. I first welcome them in, thank them for coming, and I say, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna leave you alone while you look around the house. I'm here to answer any questions. But at the end of your visit, I'm gonna have you sign in at this open house." And at that point, that awkward stranger meeting has occurred. They have time to marinate, walk through the house, and they feel a little bit more confident. And so at that point, they come to exit. I'm standing out there. At that point, I give them a couple gifts. And so instead of bringing candies or treats or anything like that, I have a logoed water bottle with a candy bar and my business card. And so I pack a tote of these with me at every open house. And if no one comes, I just put them back in my box and use them for the next one. And I'm not
There you
spending
go.
40 bucks on a, charcuterie board or whatever. And no one came, right? And so I give them one of these. So I hand them one of these. Instead of that piece of paper with the information on the house, I also give them this, which is my home buyer's guide that has all the information that anyone could possibly ask. And at that point, I've normally gained a little bit of rapport with them where I'm joking. I use humor a lot. So those of you that find me on my social media, you'll be like, man, this guy's a clown. He's just making funny videos all the time. But I have a process with that is I want people to laugh. I want people to feel comfortable, and they do feel comfortable. And this is where I'm going to get to the follow-up part. So I give them that. Now I then ask them, hey, what'd you think of the house? They give me their feedback. As we know, 99% of the time, they don't want to buy it, right? So they just like, it's a great house. It's just not the house for me. And this comes into my if we want to call it a pre-game, if you wish for your open house. I've already selected 3 other homes that are basically just like this one or similar. And I say, hey, you know what? I get that this isn't the home for you. I totally get it. I'm glad you came. There's these 3 other homes, and I pull it up on my phone and I kind of lean in and I show them there are these 3 other homes that you might like that just don't have open houses today. Can I show you them tomorrow or Monday or tomorrow or the next day?
Well, that's
And
awesome.
and then I book an appointment right there at the open house. I have closed every single client, got them a home if I make the appointment at the open house. So that's your first follow up is you try to make the appointment. Chances are they're going to leave. They might go to another open house. They're going to go and they're never going to think about you again. You were just some agent at an open house. So you got one shot, or as Eminem says, one opportunity to make this happen, right?
Yes.
So you just take it. So you got to be bold. You got to feel the room, but you got to be bold. You got to ask for the appointment. So at that point, normally I get the appointment if they're actually shopping, and then you're able to know their timing and motivation. You're able to find out if they're just a neighbor or whatever, right? But then the next step that I do is after the open house, I go down my list and I text them. I say, hey, thank you so much for coming. That's, I just very blanket. Thank you so much for coming. This is Joe Kohler from that open house. I hope you have a good weekend. Right. And then on Monday, I call them all. And then on Monday, they're in my CRM. They're getting my email on my listings. Normally, if I built enough rapport, we've got some other connection as well. So that's my follow up.
So yeah, I mean, and the immediacy of that is, and there's an urgency to that as well. You've got to do it. You can't wait. You can't uh, go home, put your feet up, and watch something, and then follow up 2 or 3 days later as your first follow up. Generally, it's as while you're there, the way you're doing it is great, but at least with that day, where you're reaching back out to them to text them or something really helps. One thing.
Especially, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, especially if you have a listing that might work for them that day, you just say, "Hey, thank you so much for coming. Here's that listing I was telling you about. That was kind of the same."
Yeah, and that's great information, is going ahead and having something that is comparable to the home that's already looked at with some different features. So that's some awesome information. One thing that you're doing in your area and beyond now, since since I came across that, is you're doing a 1,000 open house challenge. What inspired you to do this, and can you just kind of give us a story on that and what you're hoping to do?
Sure. I think a little background on that is I got very lucky with my real estate business and a lot of success, and I didn't have to do a lot of open houses. I just was great on the phone calling for sale by owners, had great success with that conversion. And, it was COVID. All of us were doing great, right? And so it was really easy. And so last year, me and a newer agent named Kelton, who's important to this story, he was like, I got to do open houses. I got to get some business. He started after everything when market had shifted. And so it was hard and he had to start really working for his business. And I was just like, well, I'll do them with you. Like, let's get going at this. So we actually, this is, I grabbed this right before our call. This is a little king trophy type thing. And so we did a challenge, and every month, whoever did the most open houses for the month, we would just pass it back and forth to whoever had done the most. And it's from a movie or in a book, Count of Monte Cristo, Kings to You, is what it was meant. But anyway, I'm a firm believer in just collaboration, and I always wish that if I had had more help in life. Like I always look back on my life and think, man, it would have been great if someone had done this or someone had done that. So I thought, why don't I just get together some agents in my area or outside my area, and we all reach for a common goal. Real estate's hard. Like a new agent telling someone that, hey, I want to do open houses, they're going to talk to 10 agents about it, and 8 or 9 of them are going to say they never work. I did 5 one time and I never got anything. And I look at open houses like any other income producing activity where it's about consistency, it's about volume, and you're going to have to do a lot of them. Like I did, almost 70 last year and only closed 7 people from them. So when you look at those odds, 1 out of 10 open houses, you got to do 10 to get one person to buy a house. Like some people think it's worth it, but I calculated out that's $500 an hour of my time. And I don't know a lot of people that make $500 an hour.
Seven is a lot better than zero.
Yep, exactly.
And your mindset of the abundance mindset of helping others on there, not trying to say, okay, I've got this and I'm not going to share, but we people don't realize, but by lifting others up, you're lifting yourself up
Every
as
time.
well.
Yep.
And that's
every time.
that goes really a long way. And I look forward to our collaboration on this. Is there any other tips or that you'd like to give agents, or just more information about your areas and stuff? And we're gonna, if it's all right, we'll have your contact information
Sure.
attached with this video as well.
Yep. I know one thing I have 2 little quotes I'll share with you is um, when you're talking about lifting others up, a quote that I always like to say is, "Be the type of real estate agent your mother thinks you are," and I think that's just so important for agents. Is we're all in this together. It's hard, they're your competition, but if you're not competing against people that are good, then like they aren't your competition anyway. So that's one thought. And then the other thought I have about having a process is this business, it's going to pay you really well as a business if you work it like a business, but it's going to pay you like a hobby if you work it like a hobby. And so you treat your open houses like a business, have a process, know what you're doing. This open house challenge is, we've got about 20 agents in it now, which means each of us have to do 50. And I'm going to have each of them report what their goal is for the year. And they get a prize when they reach their goal. Everyone's going to get a plaque when they reach 50. And then we'll probably do some sort of celebration once we get to 1,000. And it's just a way because, you got to work with the people that are working the same way you are to get stronger and smarter.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm currently kind of finishing up it should be done within the next week or two, a planning guide, open house planning guide to help agents. So that information will be in the description of this videos as well, so you can reach out. But those quotes there, I really like the one about be the type of real estate agent that your mother thinks you are. That needs to go up into about every agent's office, and that
Right.
can be done for a lot of other professions as well. So,
I agree. We should have NAR make that the code of ethics training. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But Joe, I really appreciate you spending your time with us today on this. This is going to help a lot of people, and we look forward to seeing the success of your group, your agents working towards that 1,000 open houses, and I'm sure that y'all can blow past that. So anything we can do to help, just let us know. So we're going to go ahead and end it here. We appreciate it. Go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and we'll continue our agent spotlights. If you are an agent and you would love to talk some about yourself and open houses, then definitely reach out to me and we'll make it happen. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.